Well, welcome to a special episode of For Nature podcast. I'm David Meyers, and I'm the host for the podcast today. And this is a podcast that has a title. It's being shared at the World Conservation Congress of the IUCN. And the title is Transformational Leadership, Building Systems that Empower People and Protect Nature. And we are thrilled to have two guests with us today. And I'll let each of the guests introduce themselves. We'll start with Kathleen Fitzgerald.
I'm Kathleen Fitzgerald, and I am based in the state of Vermont in the United States. And I work for the Pew Charitable Trust. I'm the project director for Enduring Earth. And prior to joining Pew, I was based in Africa for 15 years. I worked with a company called Conservation Capital, developing sustainable finance for nature and people. And I worked with the African Wildlife Foundation.
Excellent, Kathleen. Thanks so much for being here. And we also have Vatosoa Rakotondrazafy. Vatosoa.
Yeah, thank you, David. And it is also a pleasure to be here. My name is Vatosoa Rakotondrazafy. I'm from Madagascar. And I'm currently working with IUCN as the regional ocean governance manager, but also as IUCN's IPLC champion. So most of my work is around indigenous people and local communities and locally managed marine areas. And before joining IUCN, I was leading the LMMA movement in Madagascar and coordinating the Mihari network, defending the rights of Madagascar small-scale fishers. And today, I've left Mihari, but I'm still involved in as the ambassador of the network.
Excellent. Vatosoa, thank you so much for joining. It's such a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you both. So let's just start with some background on how you ended up doing this work. How did you end up, working for nature conservation, working with local communities? And maybe, Kathleen, if you could start us off with, what was your trajectory that got you to where you are?
Thanks, David. Well, I had an aha moment, which I think is pretty rare for some people, and I'm grateful for it. I was at university, and I ended up spending a month in the wilderness. I was backpacking in the Wind River Range of Wyoming. Wasn't sure what I was going to do at university. I think I was a French major at the time. And after spending a month in those mountains, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and marched back onto campus and said I was going to be an environmental studies major. And that's what I did. And I was also fortunate at the university that I attended. We had a semester program in Kenya. St. Lawrence University has an actual campus in Nairobi. And so that was my introduction to Africa. I spent a semester in Kenya, and I ended up staying on and doing research on elephants in a ranch in northern Laikipia. And so ever since that experience, it was very clear that I was going to dedicate my life to nature conservation.
Excellent, excellent. And you've been lucky to be able to spend many years in Africa doing just that, and getting into to finance and the whole combination, which we'll jump into in a little bit. And so, Vatosoa, over to you. How did you end up leading a network and working with indigenous people and local communities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, mine was not planned. It was not my plan at all because my dream when I was young was to become a lawyer. I wanted to work as a lawyer, and my objective at that time was because I came from a very poor family. So I wanted to defend the rights of marginalized and poor people. So for me, being a lawyer would allow me to do that. But unfortunately, I've missed the law exam at the university. So I ended up studying geography and conservation. So that is how I became a conservationist. So at the beginning, I still wanted to continue work to be becoming a lawyer, but no, when I saw the recruitment of the Mihari network, which the objective was to define the rights of small-scale fishers, then I told myself this is the dream job because it will allow me to defend population, the poor people, the vulnerable, and at the same time doing conservation. So that is how I ended up in marine conservation, and today there is no regret because this is really like the dream job.
Excellent to be able to support local communities and sometimes these are the poorest people in the region, that don't have very much, and to have some support from people like you and other organizations is really essential. So great, amazing work that you're doing. So I guess I want to maybe start broad here, and Kathleen, you've worked on landscape issues before. You're both sort of working on landscape and seascape issues, and um, what does what has been your experience so far, and what are you currently working on to kind of transform how we think about conservation? And maybe you can touch on what Enduring Earth is working on and right now.
Sure. Thanks, David. So the Enduring Earth Partnership, which David just mentioned, is a partnership between the Pew Charitable Trust, the Nature Conservancy, World Wildlife Fund, and Zoma Labs. And it's a radical partnership when you think about those four organizations banding together. It's quite impressive. And we are solely focused on a mechanism called Project Finance for Permanence. So, what a PFP is, and I'll use the acronym because we're conservationists and we're prone to using acronyms, but essentially it's a financial tool that brings everyone around a common vision. And the thing that I like about the PFP and the reason why I joined the Enduring Earth Partnership is so often we are focused on one community development initiative or one protected area, as opposed to thinking about the entire system and looking at a systems approach. And so, what the PFP does is number one, it brings people around a vision. Number two, it gives practitioners, and that's Indigenous people, local communities, governments, partners, the time and space that they need to really think through long-term conservation and community development. And I think that's a luxury in some ways because many of us working in the field, we're always fighting fires, right? We're focusing on where do we get funding for next month, or how do I get to this meeting or make sure the right people are here. And so what the PFP does is it enables us to do that long-term planning around systems of conservation areas, community conservation areas, and development and climate initiatives into one holistic plan, which is what we need when we're thinking about long-term durable conservation.
Hmm. Yeah, I love the longer term time scale and the sort of national or large landscape approach of Enduring Earth and PFPs in general. How do you get something like that across the line? Obviously, we're talking a little bit about leadership here. What kind of leadership is needed at what scales? How does it work? Because they're big deals.
They are big deals and it's complicated, right? Even doing a management plan for an individual protected area is complicated, right? Because you're dealing with government and communities and partners. So we're talking about large scale plans. I would say the first thing is making sure that there is space for all the voices that need to be part of that plan. And that's the critical thing. One of the exciting initiatives that Enduring Earth has participated in are three Indigenous-led PFPs in Canada. Really extraordinary planning processes that were Indigenous-led from the beginning, with technical support from partners, a commitment from the government, and that enabled the success of those three PFPs. And again, I think it was the genuine Indigenous leadership that we saw in those initiatives that enabled it to succeed. And so when I think about the role that philanthropy played in those PFPs, so a Project Finance for Permanence initiative is a partnership, as I said, between government, NGOs, Indigenous people, local communities, and funders. Really, the funders were supporting from behind. And I think that that was really important in terms of the success there. So the key thing of a PFP is really making sure that you have the right people around the table. And that term somewhat bothers me when I say that, because sometimes it's even hard getting the people in the room that need to be there. It's not just a seat at the table, it's making the space for all the voices that need to be part of that plan to ensure durability.
Hmm. Well, it's amazing progress that you're making, and I know you have large ambitions. So great to see the effort moving forward, and all these places bringing this sort of larger scale approach to conservation and a longer term approach. So excellent to see that. Vatosoa, coming back to you, I think that you in a way started out thinking about very local, very small scale, kind of locally managed marine areas and local fisher groups, and from that building up to alliances and networks, and now you're working with IUCN, thinking about almost a Western Indian Ocean level alliance. So tell us a little bit about how that progression works and how you keep the ability to pay attention and listen to the local voices and build those larger scale networks, and the
Yeah.
leadership involved there too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, David. I think for me, Mihari was definitely my university because that is where I learned about humility, about local leadership, about how to listen, how to really lead with communities. And actually, I often say that I have a master's degree. But for me, those small scale fishers, they have a PhD in the ocean because there is no one apart from them who knows better about the traditional knowledge in the ocean. So for me, that's why I'm saying that for me, they are my professors and Mihari was my university. And I think having that experience in working with communities at grassroots level and really knowing the reality really helped me with my current position in still continuing that valuing the traditional knowledge, valuing the local leadership, valuing the humility and the need to really pay attention to the needs of communities and the ambition of those communities. So that is why, like now with IUCN, I am leading the establishment of the WIO Western Indian Ocean LMMA Alliance. So I'm really building it based on what I've learned from Mihari in creating LMMA, in expanding LMMA, and in creating networks where we need to put local communities at the front line of the leadership, while all the NGOs and all the stakeholders are behind and mobilizing donors, philanthropists, and investors to get interest in supporting the alliance. For me, the link is there, and I'm really proud to say that with that new alliance, it's really how to say that replicating the what has been learned from the communities and then expanding it now at a bigger level. Yeah.
Hmm. The one of the biggest challenges that I work on, of course, is the finance piece, right? And finance very broadly defined. So it's not about just raising money; it's about using financial tools. It's about sustainable uh, continuation of conservation and how we achieve that. What are you finding at the LMMAs and the alliances? What are some of the sort of exciting initiatives or opportunities you're seeing to strengthen the longer term effectiveness of those locally managed marine areas? And how do you scale that as well?
Yeah, actually, one of the tasks of that alliance, for example, is to support the direct access to funding for small scale fishers and for LMMAs. So, because what I've learned when I was at Mihari was like, even though we support them with capacity building, with attending workshops and so on, if they don't have the funding, the finance to implement project, and we still work in a top-down approach where communities are not well involved and there is no change, there is no livelihoods, and there is no behavior change too. So for me, that's why, like within that YULMM Alliance, one of the key working group and objective is really to establish an LMMA trust fund, and where we will then develop a kind of funding mechanism which allow donors, investors, and philanthropists to support funding in like kind of a basket fund mechanism to support LMMA projects and local communities to get direct access to funding and start like marine project. And that there is that LMMA trust fund, but there is also the legal recognition of those local communities. It could be through OECM, being OECM, or any other legal framework, but that is also one of the key tasks of the Alliance to support the legal recognition of those local communities in the work they do, and really having the rights to motivate them to continue the work. And I think the last one I would mention is about the research, like valuing those traditional knowledge of the communities and making sure that they are integrated in decision making, in science, and so on. And of course, it will include also everything about capacity building and leadership of communities and yeah, all of those key tasks.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it sounds like quite a comprehensive set of activities that need to all come together to to support the long-term conservation, right? And so finance, but also leadership and legal structure, right, and governance and all that. Back to you, Kathleen. I know that Enduring has worked with indigenous groups, and you mentioned the ones in Canada, and of course the Great Bear Rainforest was one of I think it was the first project finance for Permanence. And what from what Vatosoa is talking about, what are some your thoughts? What are some lessons that you think could be shared between kind of the PFP approach and the leadership and coordination that's required there with Vatosoa's work setting up a network of locally managed marine areas?
No, it's a great question, David. And as Vatosoa, you were speaking, I was thinking about some of the alliances that have been so successful in terms of scaling up conservation and lessons learned, right? And David, you talked about the need for scaling up. And what comes to mind is the Kenyan Wildlife Conservancy Association, right? Which is a really successful association of community conservancies in Kenya. Talk about leadership led by Dixon Kayelo, who was one of the founders of community conservancies in Kenya. But creating that network of community conservancies in Kenya has worked unbelievably in terms of one, bolstering capacity, two, enabling that lesson learning between different conservancies. And each conservancy is different, but facilitating that exchange. And then three, enabling the leverage and the scale, which has also enabled them to influence policy at national level. So I think those alliances that that Vatosoa just spoke about is so important, and we've seen that as well in Namibia with their conservancy association. And when I link that to the PFPs, for example, in Canada, and David, you mentioned the Great Bear, the learning that the other Indigenous communities had from Great Bear really set a pathway. Each of those PFPs in Canada are different, but they learned from each other. They had exchange with each other. And I think that's incredibly valuable as we think about scaling up success and learning from mistakes.
Excellent. Great. Well, I mean, I can keep. I've got a few more questions that I'm going to ask you, but don't be afraid to ask each other questions too, right? As we go forward here, so don't hesitate. A lot of shared knowledge here in this space. Um, so I want to get maybe a little personal here. You both have been leaders in your different fields and different areas. What do you feel has what's driven you to seek to accomplish the goals that you have? What are some of the challenges that you're finding being a leader in this space? And what sort of advice could you share with the listeners? Kathleen, maybe we'll start with you.
I mean, one I think is what drives me is a commitment. I care deeply about nature conservation, and community development is just part of that. I don't view that as separate. We're not going to have nature conservation without community engagement and development. So I see that as holistic. When I think about leadership, there's obviously different forms of leadership, right? I think when you say leadership, I think about a Mia Motley, right, who is on the stage articulating an incredible vision for her country and for the world. But I also think about the leadership at community level, the women's cooperative in Tanzania that I worked with. So I think it's important when we think about leadership, we think about it at all different scales, because that's what's needed if we're going to achieve durable conservation. And then the other aspect that I admire in other leaders is persistence, right? This isn't a short game, it's long term. Persistence in terms of just continuing to work towards a vision. It requires a long-term commitment. And when I think about leaders that have succeeded, they've had that persistence, but also have been willing to navigate different barriers in terms of getting to those long-term goals.
So I love that commitment, persistence, and then flexibility to navigate the challenges that come up.
Just the other thing I think about is I've been very fortunate to work with people that have inspired me. And I think that that's important when we think about leadership at all levels, right? Is being able to partner with mentors or colleagues who are going to inspire you. And I've been really lucky to work with people that have inspired me. So I look at, for example, the African Leadership University, which has done a phenomenal job in creating that community of individuals who can inspire each other. And I think that's important as we think about cultivating leadership.
Excellent points. Vatosoa, over to you. Share maybe a bit about your journey and some of your thoughts.
Yeah, it was great to hear from Kathleen because I think we both share the same drivers and passion. But for me, I would say that my driver is definitely a PLC, Indigenous people and local communities. So as long as it's around that, like well-being, livelihoods, or finance, or improving the life of those communities, then that's my driver, and I think that it won't change. So maybe in terms of challenge, yeah, there are I think lots of challenges. Especially, it's not always easy. For example, to lead a coalition, as I started really young when we created Mihari, and it's not easy to be also a young woman at that time. I just finished university, and I'm still learning, but challenges are a lot. But for me, yeah, the driver is just like the objective of getting to the PLC. And I will mention maybe about creativity and innovation, because that's really important. Like we are not stuck with the same subject, but it's really for me thinking about what's new, what is the trend now. If we had LMMA before, then no, what's the trend? Is it about trust fund? No, is it about storytelling? So for me, that's what I've learned in that journey. It's really changing things based on the needs, based on the situation. And maybe I will just mention about coalition. That's no word that I really love, actually. I think I've been made to create networks and platform, and when it is about really creating coalition, mobilizing people, then for me that's always something that is really interesting. I hope I replied to your question.
Yeah, and you bring up some great points. I love the point about innovation and creativity, and a lot of us come from scientific backgrounds where creativity and innovation was not drilled into us too much. It was sort of data and hard science, that kind of thing. But to solve the problems that we have in the world, we absolutely need creativity and innovation, and I've strived to keep that part of my portfolio of tools. Um, but so you represent kind of a youth, the youth voice as well. So, and I first went to Madagascar in 1985 as a field assistant. So I've been working in nature conservation for quite a long time. And um, although I feel like I'm still, being creative, can you tell us a bit more about sort of some of the ideas that you're hearing about among younger conservationists these days? And I'm so inspired by the passion and the commitment of the younger generation, and you know, apologize for my generation of our neglect, and really have a lot of hope vested in the younger generation. So, can you just share some thoughts on that?
That's a good question. But I think I'm not young anymore. But yeah, from what I see, I've mentioned about storytelling. So for me, no, for the what I've noticed with youth and interest is really everything about podcast, like what we are doing about storytelling instead of long text or long report. Then it's more sharing the story through the storytelling project, having just your phone and being able to organize some interviews, some podcasts, and so that I think that's what I can mention. And maybe about a pitch contest. That's also something that I've noticed because 2 months ago, there is an NGO called the Natura Defenders in Madagascar. This is something you need to check because they've organized a pitch contest about ocean defenders in Madagascar, and where the Minister of Fisheries was there, Ministry of Environment, and lots of stakeholders to listen to young people, to do a pitch contest, like poems and everything, but really about the ocean, about marine conservation. And for me, I've just told myself, wow, if only we could avoid long workshops and just use those new format with youth to just learn about one thing, about mangrove, about coral reef, but through another like artistic way. So yeah, that's maybe some innovation that we can potentially use, but there are a lot like painting but really still the conservation part is there, but no using other ways. But that's why I really love this podcast idea where we can have free. I'm really really honored to be with you and Kathleen because I know both of you and I'm really respecting your work, especially on finance and nature. So this is the kind of discussion that we can have even between leaders and emerging leaders, and just exchanging and brainstorming on solutions, innovation, and how we can better support nature.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on here, and have you both. I just you're reminding me of an event I organized about 15 years ago, probably, where we integrated music, art, and a little bit of spirituality into a discussion around sustainability. And we had a retreat offsite, and I got together a group of people, and it was really powerful. And we don't do that enough. We should do that more. Bringing art in, bringing poetry in, it really opens up parts of our brains that are creative and you know touch our emotions in ways that really are motivating. And so, yeah, I think maybe we need to conceive of a global conference that's really brings in all these elements at some point. So, Kathleen, over to you. Any share with us some thoughts related to some of these topics we've been discussing?
So many topics, right? I mean, what Vatosoa, you just said, all of that so relevant. Something you said earlier struck me in terms of getting resources to the ground. And you mentioned that conservation trust fund. And so that's something I think we need to work harder at in terms of the resources. We all know there's a gap in funding, right, for global conservation. But David, something you said earlier as well is it the resources themselves or is it about distribution, right? And I think that is something we're improving on in terms of making sure that the resources are getting to the ground so that there can be greater impact at community level. And that's something I think we can do better at 100%, but I have seen more improvement there. And so it's interesting to hear in Madagascar that conservation trust fund that you were mentioning, and continuing to learn from each other different ways of getting the resources to the ground. And it also links to the competition that you were talking about, right? So creating funding mechanisms for those competitions, right? Where communities can apply to the Conservation Trust Fund for creative ideas that support that larger vision of conservation and community development. So, some of the comments that you were making made me think about that.
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to self-promote the CFA. We're running an incubator for innovation and conservation finance. We have 10 projects currently that we're supporting, and we're very excited to be launching another round coming up probably late October. We'll announce that, and we'll be able to support more projects. And here, this is really trying to push the envelope on innovation around conservation finance to address some of these issues that we're discussing here. So, a little blatant self-promotion, as well as, of course, the practice standards and the work we do with conservation trust funds, which I'm a big fan of conservation trust funds. And a lot of those trust funds are looking at and using innovative approaches to, not so much direct payments, but, a whole range of approaches to try to get money down to the local level in ways that they haven't done before. But so watch this space. It should be very interesting.
It's, David, just a comment on that. We do focus on innovation, right? And we have so many funders that want innovation, which is wonderful, and we need it. And the examples that you just shared and Vatosoa shared is impressive. But as we point out in the sustainable finance guidelines that we just published with the IUCN, so many regions, communities, countries need support for the basics, right? And so while we're all inclined towards the new and the innovative and the flashy, going back to the basics in terms of what we need to ensure durable finance for conservation, that can't be missed, right? And I think what has enabled some of the conservation trust funds to be innovative is in some cases they've been able to cover the basics, right? They've been able to ensure that salaries are being paid, planning is being done, and that then enables them to have the space and time to be creative. So that point is always, I think, important to remind people that we need to make sure that we're doing the basics in order to enable people to really be creative and have that space.
Wow, absolutely. And thanks, Kathleen, for bringing up the publication, the IUCN World Commission on Protected Areas practice guidance for protected and conserved area finance, which we'll share a link in the information here. It's a great document, and it does cover the basics, and that was the goal. And I think we've done a good job getting that out there, and there's been a lot of interest in that. So please have a look at that. And I agree 100%. Innovation is wonderful, and we support that because we need it. But the basics, we need to make sure we cover the basics. And yeah. Well, I think I'm going to maybe ask you for some concluding thoughts, and or maybe around what's the future? What do you see as the future needs and opportunities for leadership in this space? And where how can we support that, and how can you achieve your goals as well, as you go forward in the work that you're doing?
I think I'll still focus on IPLC because that's my area. But anyway, for me, whatever conservation work we do, the basis is really those local communities. So this is something that I've discussed today with at the forum I'm attending. I think we should organize some kind of IPLC fellowship program. For me, that's maybe something that could change. And the fellowship program is for donors, like the participants would be donors, investors, as researchers, NGOs, representatives. And the idea of that curriculum training is really to understand everything about IPLC Like, what are the needs? What is the history? What is the context? How to work with them? What are the principles that and the criteria and the key elements that needs to be taken into account when you work with communities? Because for me, when we manage, for me, that's the new leadership that we need. Like, everyone has those empathy, those transparency, those humility, which are really key when you work with a PLC. And then when that basis is solved, then everything will just flow. Like, it will be easy to achieve target, even 30 by 30 or any target that we have, if we really invest in those IPLC. So for me, that's maybe just a proposition of having organizing and having those IPLC fellowship program, and where it's not IPLC that are trained, but they are the one training the others. That's maybe what I can propose. I don't know if I've answered the question. And maybe just talking about youth and women, it's the same. Like, we've discussed about creativity before. So you've mentioned, David, that the CFA has, for example, some incubation, and for me, really thinking about nature, because for the case of Madagascar, I see that we have lots of startups, lots of incubations, but most of them is not on nature. It's on other topics. So the idea is, like, why for nature, why don't we have those incubation for youth? Like, like at early age, they can already see what is the value of working for nature, for investing in nature, and then we have those entrepreneurship startup hubs in incubation where youth can really develop those creativity for nature, and we can really build the future generation of conservation leaders for tomorrow from really that early age. So that's what I would suggest, maybe as change in terms of leadership fellowship program.
Love those ideas. Love that fellowship concept. I think that's absolutely necessary. Turning the tide and just learning from those who have so much to share and teach us. So excellent. Kathleen, to you.
Love that idea as well of the fellowship, and also just emphasizing humility, which Vatosoa you've highlighted a couple times. Um, it's hard to believe that 2030 is 5 years away, right? And we have a long way to go. And I think the best way we're going to get there is by collaborating. And what that means is putting aside egos, putting aside logos, joining hands, and really thinking about what is it going to take. And in some cases, it means getting out of the way and allowing leadership to emerge in new environments that haven't been able to emerge in the past. And the thing that I'm optimistic about is this large scale holistic planning that we're seeing in so many initiatives, right? Not just Enduring Earth, but there's this new debt coalition, for example, where more than 6 organizations have banded together to look at how do we work together to support countries in achieving the plans that they've outlined. And then how do we make sure that those resources get to the right areas in order to deliver conservation and durable impact. And so that I'm optimistic about that. I don't think we've ever seen before these partnerships at so many different scales. And I think if we continue again with that line of being humble, putting aside the egos, putting aside the logos, and really banding together, we can achieve great things.
Excellent. Well, what a great way to end the podcast. And I want to just thank you both for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts and your passion with us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what's next.